Picture this. An invisible tutor is sitting right beside a learner. It doesn't have a camera, it can't see their face, and it certainly can't read their mind. Yet somehow it knows exactly when they're starting to doubt themselves. It knows precisely when frustration is setting in, and exactly when they're on the verge of just giving up completely. So how does it do that? Well, it all comes down to a really fascinating principle. The AI does not guess at feelings. It measures the behaviors that feelings produce.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are exploring a truly captivating concept from the HearSeeDo operating system. We're going to unpack exactly how an artificial intelligence can map tiny, almost imperceptible behavioral signals directly to human confidence. As you'll see, this system acts as a hyper-observant, deeply empathetic guide, stepping in at the exact split second a learner needs it most.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, decoding behaviors into feelings. Second, measuring hesitation and retries. Third, tracking voice and duration. Fourth, spotting cross-session patterns. And finally, how Gemini powers adaptation.
Starting us off with Section 1, decoding behaviors into feelings. Let's look at these hidden fingerprints. The whole philosophy here is actually quite profound. You see, a learner's behavior fundamentally changes long before they ever raise their hand to say, "Hey, I'm struggling." The AI is tracking this behavior across every single activity in every session for every learner. Now, if you've ever tried to teach, you know human attention has physical limits, right? A brilliant teacher with 15 kids in a room simply cannot clock every half-second hesitation for every single child all at once. But this invisible, AI-driven system, it can constantly monitor those exact behavioral fingerprints.
Moving right along to Section 2, measuring hesitation and retries. We're talking split-second reactions here.
So the very first signal is hesitation. Think about it like this. Every learning activity has an expected response window. Let's say it's 3 seconds. A confident learner just naturally responds within that window. But what happens when belief wavers under pressure? They freeze. The gap between that expected 3-second window and their actual response time is one of the clearest real-time indicators of confidence we have.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how specific time thresholds instantly trigger these deeply empathetic system responses. If they answer in 0 to 3 seconds, boom, confident, keep the difficulty steady. But look down at that 6 to 10 second mark. That is a clear hesitation. The system doesn't punish them for that. Instead, it actively inserts encouragement. And if they take over 10 seconds, well, the system knows they've frozen. Their confidence is broken. So it instantly softens the activity and scales back the difficulty for the next round. Which brings us to signal number 2, retry behavior. Because honestly, getting an answer right matters way less than how a kid responds to getting it wrong. The system tracks the actual shape of their response to failure.
Let's walk through what this looks like in the real world. Picture a learner getting an answer wrong. If they immediately try again, yeah, they might be frustrated, but they're still engaged. They believe they can figure it out. But what if they get it wrong, pause for a heavy 6 seconds, and then retry? You can almost feel that hesitation creeping in, can't you? Their belief is wavering. And scenario 3, they get it wrong and they just hit skip. That single click tells the system the whole story. Confidence is completely broken and they've completely disengaged.
All right, Section 3, tracking voice and duration. We're zooming out a bit to look at sustained effort. Signal number 3 is voice participation. For language learners especially, speaking out loud is absolutely the highest stakes activity. So naturally, it's the very first thing they avoid when their confidence drops. We've all been there, shrinking down in our chairs to avoid the teacher's gaze. A child avoiding a speaking prompt usually isn't just being lazy. They're rapidly calculating the risk, and they've decided the risk of being heard making a mistake is just way too high.
The AI watches this engagement like a hawk. Strong engagement means they're hitting 75 to 100% of those speaking prompts. But if that participation rate tanks to under 40% for 2 sessions in a row, the system spots a confidence crisis. And its job like then isn't to force them to speak and crank up the anxiety. Its job is to make trying feel safe again. It might automatically pivot to low-stakes, no-judgment formats, like a simple song or a chant.
Our fourth signal is engagement duration. Basically, how long does it actually take a kid to finish a lesson compared to the expected duration? It's really easy to assume that rushing through a lesson makes you a genius, but this system knows better. It separates true mastery from sheer task avoidance.
Let's say we have an expected 15-minute lesson. Child A takes 22 minutes. They're thinking carefully, taking their time, totally engaged. Now look at Child B. They rush through the whole thing in 8 minutes. Meanwhile, child C gets so frustrated they just stop completely at 6 minutes. To an outsider, child B might look like a fast-finishing prodigy. But the behavioral data tells us the real story. Child B is rushing because they've stopped processing. They just want the anxiety of the task to be over with.
So, the crucial point here is how the AI interprets these completion patterns to act preemptively. If a learner finishes way under the expected time, the system flags it as potential avoidance behavior and immediately cross-references their hesitation and skip rates to make sure. If they just abandon it midway, the system flags for frustration and drops the difficulty for the very next session. It's incredibly proactive.
Next up, Section 4, Spotting Cross-Session Patterns. This is all about catching the spiral.
Now, zooming out from a single 15-minute lesson, an individual pause or a skipped question is really just one data point. But cross-session pattern recognition, that's where the AI becomes genuinely a game changer. As the source material notes so perfectly, a child can have a bad day. We all do. But a child cannot have the same bad day 5 sessions in a row by coincidence.
Just look at this devastating but incredibly common trajectory right here on the board. Week 1, things look mostly okay. But check out that trend line. Confidence drops 31 points. Hesitations accelerate from 2 to 11. Voice participation just completely crashes, from a healthy 85% down to an active avoidance rate of 25%. If a teacher only sees this kid once a week in a crowded classroom, no single session looks like a full-blown crisis. But the system sees that unmistakable downward spiral, and crucially, it automatically triggers an intervention by week 2 before week 3 completely derails.
And finally, Section 5. How Gemini powers adaptation. Let's look at the two brains running the show. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole two brains approach of the system. First, you've got Gemini 2.0 Flash. This model operates in real time, right inside the session, reacting to a hesitation with a staggering 200 millisecond latency. I mean, it is lightning fast, making these split-second decisions to insert encouragement or tweak the next activity. But then you have Gemini 2.5 Pro. This is the deep thinker working behind the scenes, between sessions. While the learner sleeps, it takes its time using deep reasoning to analyze their 30-day confidence history and struggle points, deliberately designing the absolute perfect lesson plan for the very next day.
Notice how this adaptation works in practice. Once the system figures out a learner's state, it fundamentally changes how the content is delivered, not just what is delivered. For a struggling learner whose confidence is dipped below 45, the system switches to a nurturing style. It literally changes its phrasing to things like, "Wow, you tried so hard on that one. Trying is the most important thing." Now contrast that with a confident learner scoring over 70. They get an energetic challenge. "Nice, you're on a roll, ready for something a bit harder."
Which brings us to a final, pretty profound thought, what the source actually calls the honest limitation. This system has no camera, no biometrics. It absolutely cannot measure what a child feels inside. But it really forces us to ask, if an AI can perfectly track the behavioral fingerprint of hesitation, avoidance, and frustration, and respond to it at a scale that no human ever could, is that enough to make it the ultimate empathetic tutor? It's a fascinating look into the future of educational technology for sure. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.